Hey everybody, it's your host Brian Hunt, and welcome back to another episode of my LinkedIn live show, Risk On, Risk Off. So if you've been watching these shows live or going to my YouTube channel to watch this, we focus a lot on the concept of risk and all the ways it permeates both geopolitical, economic, supply chain disruptions, and we kind of have a tendency to focus a little bit on construction, real estate, but overall, the concept is risk, and risk applies to everything. No industry or sector is immune from risk, and as a result, that's why I like to try to talk about it. But also, one of the biggest risks a person can do is start their own firm. And I have, as my line of work, I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and I've always been very respectful for those people who can decide to forego the safety of a paycheck and try to go out and do it on their own. But then when you take that and couple it with someone who wants to do risk consulting services or provide risk service, it's kind of a unique blend where you're trying to help people to become risk averse, or at least mitigate their risk, but taking the biggest risk you can do is starting your own firm. And so I've had the pleasure of knowing these two gentlemen for a number of years, and they are actually one of my early guests in the first year of this. They are the founders of MEO Continuity, and these two gentlemen have started this firm from scratch based on an idea, and they have grown to pretty interesting. They've gotten bigger, they've gotten employees, and they're expanding their reach around the country and the world. So it is with great pleasure and honor I get to reintroduce you in Mr. Maximilian Glodde. How are you, sir?
Hey, good to see you again, Brian.
Good. And I got his partner, Mr. Christopher Wegman. Chris, good to see you again.
Hey, Brian, nice to see you as well.
Great. So, gentlemen, we're going to forego the background since we've done this twice. So people can, if they need to, they can go watch the prior videos on my YouTube channel. But if we are going to please set it up, so if I can ask both of you guys, I'll start with Max. If we're playing a modified version of the game, where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? Where is Max today?
Well, I still live in Greenville, South Carolina, so I haven't really moved.
Okay.
It's very hot outside. But, I just wanted to say it's been great seeing the show come a long way. I know it was the first year, like you mentioned, right, when we were on for the first time, and then the second time last year. And then, of course, you got to have it. Got to have all good things come in threes, right?
I mean,
but no, I mean, we've come a long way. A lot of things have changed since last year, and I'm happy to share that as we chat today. But
awesome.
Yeah, it's good to see you.
Great. And Chris, if I'm gambling, are you in New York City today?
You got it, Brian. Coming to you from lovely Midtown Manhattan here, at our New York office here.
Oh, fantastic! So that's part of the things that we're going to change. So I won't bury that. But how's the weather in Manhattan right now, Chris? Seems like it's getting kind of hot and steamy there. So.
It's warm. This week has been brutal, honestly. But, it's okay. I'm not going to complain because there's a lot to complain about in the winters here. So I try and just enjoy the summer, enjoy the warm weather, and the nice maybe 3-4 days of fall and spring that we get.
Yep.
Right now, we're in the thick of it.
Oh, man. Well, yeah, people but say, summer has been too bad here in Dallas, but August starts on Friday, and that's everybody knows this is when it gets into the bear of it. So we're hitting 100 already this week. So, gentlemen, we got a lot of ground to cover. So let's not recreate the wheel, but let's go back to early on. Max, let's talk about this idea to start this firm. How a bunch of guys who work for an insurance carrier wanted to start their own firm to help people identify and quantify their risks.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for us, where it really started was working with a lot of risk management teams. And one of the most common challenges they saw is that a lot of the analysis they have to do around understanding what is important to the business, how exposed is it, how protected is it today, a lot of information in that space, right? Of course, that's useful for the underwriter, but it's incredibly useful for a risk manager to understand, to be able to say, okay, I'm making decisions with this information. I am buying insurance with this information. I am deciding on whether I should physically protect a location of mine or dual sources supplier, whatever it is. They're trying to communicate that level of importance and exposure to their stakeholders, leadership, the markets, customers. And we were running around with spreadsheets trying to do that. Now, when you take even just smaller organizations with 3, 4, 5 locations, all the way up to hundreds of them, the more you do in a spreadsheet, the harder it becomes to update. And as a result, nobody really does it. So we decided, look, there's got to be a way to at least automate most of this process, put it into like a TurboTax-esque format so that people can continue to update their business impact analyses, their business continuity plans year over year without having to reinvent the wheel or feel like, oh my God, I'm climbing a mountain, right? So the technology we've built as a result of that really allows for just a much more frictionless process, so that you're enabling communication between all the parties that have to contribute to the risk process, whether that's a plant manager or a site leader, or it's a supply chain person. You're giving them something that they're like, hey, this is intuitive. I can fill this out. The risk manager gets what they need. They get it in a consistent way, and they can then communicate that, right? So that's why we created MEO, is because we just saw there's so much friction in this process, and there just had to be a simpler way.
Awesome. So Chris, let's piggyback off of that. So let's go back again. You and Max have this idea to start this firm. If I remember correctly, you're both married, kids,
right?
Going to take that big risk.
Yeah.
So what was that conversation like with the families to try to think about, like, are we going to do this or not do this?
Oh, well, I can only speak for myself, and I know that Max's family was very supportive, but luckily for me, my wife was extremely supportive of this endeavor. Her father was an entrepreneur, my father was an entrepreneur, so it's kind of something that's in our DNA to a degree, and she had seen the benefits through her life and growing up the way that she did.
Yeah.
Just how meaningful it can be to start something that you can call your own, to grow something, and to be your own boss. And, coming from the corporate world, as both Max and I did, there's challenges associated with that. And there's also challenges associated with this, but the risk involved was well worth it. And as you said in your intro, and I was enjoying that, we work in risk consulting, and we decided to take one of the biggest risks that you can.
Exactly.
Just remember, we do work in risk consulting, and this was never an idea that, it's not like Max or I woke up out of the sleep one night and said, oh my God, people are going to need a risk management software to quantify their exposure. Just like, no, the risk was always at least partially somewhat mitigated by the fact that people have been telling us about this.
Mm-hmm.
They have been saying to us, listen, we need a better way to do this. We need a way to make this whole process just easier, more manageable, because as we've seen, it's not just risk managers, but people throughout an organization, they want to do the right things. They want to protect their business. And the problem was that they were just having a little bit of a hard time doing so, and a hard time creating that message and telling that story and doing all the good work that they so desperately wanted to do, but could only really manage once every couple of years because of the time investment and the technology challenges and just the various difficulties associated with that process. So we knew we had a little something going there. It wasn't just a complete shot in the dark, but as you can say, it was a big risk, and I was very lucky to have a very supporting group of individuals around me, particularly my wife.
So let's try to at least summarize and go back to our first interview, Max. Maybe you can talk about it. What was that first year like? What was the efforts involved? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, for this first year, it was just the two of you, right?
Yeah, I mean, the first year was just the two of us. Yeah.
Yeah.
That feels like a long time ago. No, I mean, look, the first year is an interesting one because you obviously prepare for it to take a while. Yeah. So you are fundamentally, I always say this, the things you worry out before you walk out of the door of a corporate job are completely different to the day after. And it's highly personal.
Yeah.
Because before you leave, it's very real. It's things like, hey, money, like, how are we going to do this? Right. We have kids, like all that stuff. Mm-hmm. The day after, it's like, okay, how are we going to now build this? And you've made your choice. Now, from a business perspective, in that first year, for us, we were very much still building software. We were building platform. We had some early adopters that were prepared to give it a shot when it was ready, and that was great because we were able to get really high quality feedback from those early adopters very early on. So you're able to build a feature, go out and talk to those people and say, hey, does this make sense? And they go, yes, it does. The worst thing you can do is build stuff in a vacuum, right? Now we know from our experience, 80-90% of what people wanted, we understood, hey, we can build that. And then the magic comes from someone saying, hey, yeah, but I need to see like these 3 fields right here. Can we do that? It's like, yeah, of course. And that's valuable for most people. Now, one other thing that I think took a lot of pressure off of us was, yes, we were building a cool software tool, and that's great. we also really know how to do business impact analysis and business continuity planning as just consultants, right? So we actually were able to win work in those spaces to tide over certain things in the business to just make it work. But yes, that first year, you're kind of just sort of, you blink and it goes by.
So that's a good point, Max. So as somebody's asked an entrepreneur, like obviously you had this vision of the software, but that was going to take time and effort. But you guys did have tribal knowledge and professionalism as far as doing business impact analysis, business continuity planning. So is it fair to say, like, you're leveraging your experience to keep the lights on, and as you're trying to develop this program to get to the next, to like phase 2 of your evolution? Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, the idea is really like, to put it simply, like, how do you take the combined experience that we have and build it into a software tool that other people can benefit from, and that way you're constantly iterating, adding to it. And if the software isn't, or if a feature isn't quite ready yet, because that happens, it still happens today. We're building new stuff all the time. It's like, don't worry, I can still do the work for you. So you're still going to get that valuable output. It's just once it's ready on the software, now you get to drive it, you get to control it, you get to update it, and benefit from actually building a framework that works instead of just this one-time hit, right? So the way I would look at that is, and very often there is a very good reason to hire an army of consultants to come in and do something for you. That's good. And those are particularly good for point in time projects. Like, I have a very specific problem that I have to solve. I'm going to get a lot of people to help me with that. The thing with the risk management process, especially BIA, BCP, stuff like that, is there is not an end point. Because the business is constantly moving, the economic landscape is moving, everything is moving all the time. So your challenge is, how do I implement a process that I can own and operate as a risk manager that allows me to update it? Something that a team of 30 people wrote in the space of 4 weeks, I can't update that as one person. It's too much work because I got a million other things going on. So again, the point there is having the experience in the space and building it into software has been super beneficial, and clients just benefit from now having a tool that lets them also do that in a repeatable way.
Great.
Yeah, and just to piggyback quickly off two things Max said, which I think are important, and that is, I would just like to highlight again the importance of those early adopters, right? Because they took a chance on us, as a very young technology company, and they were instrumental in helping us to build the product, to refine the product, and just to help us through growing pains, really. And who, if they're listening, they know who they are. And quite a bit to them.
No, that's fantastic. So, Chris, I want to pivot in a second. I want
one more thing on the like you said, okay, we would do manual work in order to keep the lights on, right? And that was true for sure. But it also was a very nice way to sort of transition somebody from the manual work onto the software, right? So it wasn't really ever our intention. We would, if we had to do like a one-off. It was more like, okay, look at how this works. Now imagine how great it would be like if you have this software, so they can continue the process. So it became a really nice sales channel as well.
Very good. So, Chris, I'm going to pivot to you and ask a question here in a second about year 2. But for those of you who just joined us, I am having a conversation with Chris Wegman and Max Glodde, founders of MEO Continuity. If you've never done this before or seen this, if you look to the bottom right-hand corner of my screen, you'll see a picture of me, and next to that there's an oval that says add a comment. If there's a question you want to bring to either Max or Chris's attention, please type it in there and I'll see it. And if you keep it clean, I'll bring it to their attention. So
or not. I mean, that's
or not. Oh, no. It's a big family show. So, Chris, let's talk about year 2. So you got year 1 on your belt. You're growing. You're starting to evolve. How's year 2 evolving?
Yeah, I would say in year 2 there was really 2 key areas that were instrumental for us. In addition to just growing the business, taking on new clients, looking for different sales channels, investigating different channel partners that it made sense to work with or to talk with, and just getting our name out there in a way that it wasn't, right? Like, that's been one of the challenges for MEO over the course of the last 3 years or so, is just name recognition, right? Nobody knew who we were. If we can generally get a good conversation with a risk manager or somebody from an organization, they'll understand the value proposition. But again, who are you compared to a Deloitte, this and that? So getting our name out there was very important. The other thing that we aim to do in sort of year 2, towards the end of year 2, was to bring all of our technology in-house, right? So all of our development in-house. Early days, we didn't necessarily have that luxury, but it was something that we always wanted to work towards.
Okay.
And bringing that in-house just gave us an additional level of oversight, control, and velocity in the way that we would develop things, in the way that we would troubleshoot things. So that was really a critical turning point for us, was to change the way we were approaching the development process. And the third thing was, there's a lot that goes into running a business. Even like I generally handle the operations side, right?
Okay.
And there's a lot of things that go not just doing the actual work, but the actual policies and procedures and how you're going to do that work as the team continues to grow. It's stuff that you might not think about as much, particularly coming from the corporate world, because you're always following somebody else's procedures.
Correct.
Then you get to this point where you're like, wait a minute, these are we need procedures, number one. I have to develop them, which at first might kind of seem like a drag. It's kind of administrative work, but the more you think about it, it's again that level of ownership that you get with creating your own company. It's like, these are my procedures, and I can make them in my image. It can say exactly what I want it to say, at least for a first draft, and we'll collaborate. But that proved to be kind of surprisingly fun. Was like not only determining what we're going to do, but how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
So operationalizing all those things is kind of an interesting task that continues to this day. There's a ever growing need for it with the maturity level that we're at right now. Yeah. And I've enjoyed that for sure.
I will say I have a whole new level of respect for HR professionals, people in those roles, because it's one of those like the unsung heroes of any company, because it is a lot of work. And you think you have it all together, and then next thing you're like, somebody asked a question that's like off the wall, and you're like, okay, now we got to write a policy for that. So it's
just knowing how to do BIAs and BCPs is not enough.
Not enough. No. Well, that brings a good point. So year 1, when we first chatted, the first time we had the conversation, it was just the two of you, correct?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So fast forward year 2, outside yourself, how many full-time employees did you have?
Well, so if you took it at the end of year 2, because that was just like a couple months ago, right?
Okay.
We're now 13, going on 14 people.
14. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a big jump. And
it's a jump, it's kind of, but you in-house development. So you end up with like half of those are tech, like is on the tech side. Right.
Okay.
And then the other half is your ops side, or people that run client workshops and help clients with whatever they need in terms of the risk management process. So it was a big jump for sure. And again, we're still adding, we're adding 2 more right now. So one starts next month, and then one more month after, or something like that. So
now, is everybody in New York City, or you guys do a lot of virtual work, or how's that work?
A lot of people remote. So Canada, Argentina,
okay,
up and down, and then East Coast, basically like Atlanta, Greenville, New Jersey, New York. Like that's where people are sitting at the moment.
Okay.
And we have an office here in Greenville. We have an office up in New York. So we get together as a team. When you're remote, it is a whole different set of challenges, especially if you're very social. Like we're all pretty social people. We like getting together. Yeah. It's really important. Some of our best ideas come from that. We had our offsite here 2 weeks ago in Greenville at the office here, and technically not. I guess it's an offsite because you're not at home. But so many good ideas for new things to build, how to make the product better, how to make it faster, everything that we look at is user experience. Like we want people to have a great experience with the technology, but also with our team. Okay. So the idea is that we're trying to reduce friction as much as possible. And I can share in a bit, like a couple of ways that we're doing that, which is really fun. So that's our team now.
All right, great. So give us a snapshot, maybe Chris, you could start, Max jump in. So
sure.
Where is the product solution that you guys are offering? And how would you describe the current level of the platform?
Well, the current level of the platform is it does everything that we initially intended for it to do.
Okay, great.
Right. So you can quantify your financial exposures at a location level. at a process area level, process level, supplier level, IT application level, all the functionality that we initially wanted it to do. And then that leading into the development of your business continuity plans, making those plans, very straightforward, documenting everything you need to document, having a deliverable for any interested shareholders or stakeholders. That works and that's done, and people are using that right now. But we're never satisfied.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
So we want the stuff that's currently there, we're working on making it better. And we're always adding new features, new functionality. That'll just, make it a more comprehensive tool that's still focused very much in this area, but adding in functionalities related to artificial intelligence, adding on new modules related to business income values, adding on and improving and continuing to develop our cyber module. Those are all things where we have a long list of things to do, but the initial vision, it's there and improving right now.
Okay. So Max, maybe you can walk us through, let's say I'm a Fortune 500 manufacturing firm, and I'm really interested to see what you guys can do, how this might help me. So what is the initial phases as far as what is the work that's done to assess the client, their needs, what can or can't be done, and how does MEO Continuity come in and deliver?
I love that question. So fundamentally, what we want straight out of the gate, right? We don't want to have a long implementation life cycle, right? Like you tell us go 2-3 days, you can start quantifying exposures. Just kind of works out of the box. Like that's really important. A lot of we've learned over the last 2 years that isn't always the case with some solutions. But for us, our objective is we take this process very much from the top down, and we somehow want the data to tell us what is important in the company, right? And so what does that actually mean? When we work with our risk managers, what we're trying to do is just let people answer the questions that they're good at answering. So that means we will go to finance and we will request information from them around revenues and products that they make. So defining what do you actually make and how much does it make? Then we'll work with like a statement of values to understand what are the locations that you have that support all those different revenue streams that you generate. And then working with them to map all that stuff together, right? That's fundamentally that sort of corporate layer of just understanding dependencies, interdependencies, what does the value chain look like? And then from there, the best way to approach this process is kind of like eating an elephant, right? We want to eat it one bite at a time. And what that means really is if you're a risk manager and if you're in a Fortune 500, like you just said, chances are you have a lot of locations you got to deal with, a lot of different assets. And the idea is that the way we built MEO is to be really incremental, right? So if you're saying, hey, this year I only want to focus on this one division of my business and I want to focus on 4 locations within it, and I want to build really detailed strategies for them. What does that look like? Well, that's where they can say, hey, MEO team, can you go and do a workshop with me over 3 days? And in those 3 days, we're going to build a full business impact analysis, full business continuity plan for the site. But we take it down to, if you want, down to the equipment level. Because what do we actually want to understand as a risk manager that's doing a project like this is what are the things at the site that have to keep going? What are the things that can hurt us the most if we lose them? And those are things like production lines, IT applications, critical functions that you have there. So what we would do in that 3-day process is we map all of that stuff to revenue. Okay. Now, because we unify everybody under one big financial umbrella, it allows you, after you've gone through that process, to answer a question. If your CFO comes to you and says, hey, Brian, could you let me know across this division or across the whole company, what are our top 50 most exposed processes that we have?
Okay.
And instead of going on a scale of 1 to 10, we can say, based on the financial analysis across 6 locations, these are our top 50. We should focus on those. We should make sure they are protected, whether that's inventory, risk improvement, insurance, whatever it is, right? So we really help enable that process through that initial onboarding, which is really fast, and then these individual, really bite-sized projects at a location level, right? So it's not a big lift in that sense.
Yeah. So Chris, I remember when we first chatted, you had a great term for this as far as this has become a firm's digital twin. Mm-hmm. Now, to that point, when you guys are coming to talk to your client, is this your system? Is it extract information directly from their accounting software? Is it a bolt-on? Is it compatible for all accounting? Or I guess there's always some variables, but I'm just kind of curious from an actual tactical, how you guys are actually making the digital twin.
Yeah, it's an excellent question. And that sort of word, digital twin, I've heard that phrase used a million times and meaning a million different things, right? But for us, in terms of the way that we get our data in order to create what we refer to as the digital twin, we just get it straight from the client. And right now we're not APIing into any of their accounting softwares or anything like that. And we're purposefully not doing that. And that's for a couple of reasons. Number one, as Max said, we want to create a very seamless onboarding process, right? I know that an API seems very seamless, and it's frankly not very difficult to do if not for all the red tape that's involved with going through security and IT and legal in order to set those things up. So all of a sudden, you're already putting yourself sort of behind the 8 ball there. If you have to wait for 2-3 months to clear that hurdle when you have a risk manager, a CFO, other stakeholders involved who want to get moving. And the information that we're asking for, it's not very complicated. It's very basic, push of a button type of reports that we get for the most part. Of course, there are exceptions to that.
I was going to say.
But so once we have that information, we have our high level financials, locations, et cetera. It's really the process of mapping those to your finished goods and then all the way back through the value chain. That's the digital twin that we're creating, so that you can have an understanding of, at any point in time, if you lose any asset that's part of that value stream, how much revenue is at risk, and everything else is born of that. And then you can sort of continue to go down the line into your process areas, your critical equipment, et cetera. But the idea, the framework is always the same. You remove any of those things, and what's the amount of revenue that's at risk? And that's the digital twin that we're referring to.
I would also
somebody on MEO, and as we onboard them.
I would also add, just to what Chris is saying, like what we can't lose sight of here in this process is the biggest issue with running stuff like this in Excel and Word over years is you lose comparability of exposures. So you might do 10 sites over the course of 10 years, do BIAs. And on the 10th year, and this used to be the case, clients would ask me all the time, hey, can we now compare all these? Like, whoa. We need a big project to kind of put these all on the same financial year. So what I'm saying here is that what's more important about this process is that everyone's using the same data set, not that the data set is up to the minute, up to date. I know that seems a little ridiculous, right? But the idea is that, okay, at least when we're doing our analysis for this year, because we're doing a risk analysis, nobody knows exactly what's going to happen. So let's just make sure that at least everyone's using the same financials, the same product tree, calling things the same things when they're doing their analysis, right? So it becomes comparable.
So question I want to talk to you guys, it's kind of pivotal, but it's kind of rewind the clock a bit. Like, so you have an idea, you've got experience in discounting planning, you know how to do BIAs, you're come up with this great software package, and I remember when I first talked to you guys in our backgrounds, like I knew you guys were going to be onto something here. But then you still have to go out and market it and sell it. So talk about, since I think I know about your backgrounds, but talk about becoming entrepreneurs and having to go out and hustle. And so how did you guys approach to try to get the words out, to get the word recognized? How did you build this brand? And and then I love to know, like, what different approaches you guys, like this
how
works.
Much time do you have?
Well, I mean,
I'll let Max talk the specifics, but conceptually, I think there are a few things that we learned throughout the process, right? So as you said, we have experience in this field. We feel like we've built this incredible product, right? And then the first thing you want to do is go tell everybody how great it is, right? Yeah. And that, as we learned and as we continue to learn, is not the right approach, because that's not why people work with you. It's not why people buy things. They buy things because they have a problem that needs to be solved. And that problem is not always the same, right? There's a whole myriad of problems and issues that our software and our process can help to address. But if you're not actively listening to a potential prospect after you've gone through the marketing, and I'll let Max speak to that about what we do, but if you're not asking questions, if you're not actively listening and trying to engage them in a more helpful manner, not just trust me, you need this. It's obvious you need this. It's like, ask a question and let them tell you why they need it.
Sure.
And then it helps with two things. It helps you make your case because you know what problems you're addressing. And it can also help you to just sort of identify where maybe there's not the best fit here, the best need. It's not the right time. It's not the best company to afford this software. But getting to either one of those things, as quickly as possible is very important. You can't just sort of, shotgun approach it, basically.
Yeah. So Max, before you start answering that question, so we did have one question come in, and I think it's a little bit of a tongue in cheek, but I think everybody understand this. Mr. Alan Manor would like to know, what is the secret to your great skincare?
What's up, Alan? I love Alan, man. I'm glad he's here.
Yeah.
First of all, there's a touch-up feature on the camera, so that's basically all that. And drives my wife crazy. I don't put lotion on my face.
Fantastic. So Max, obviously, let's talk about, to piggyback what Chris is talking about. Obviously, it's important to listen to the client, but you still got to go out there and get the client.
You got to go get out there and get business. For us, the conferences are awesome. Like going to all of the different, RIMS, DRI, DRJ. We were over in Europe recently at Risk In. We AirMake, seeing people in person is honestly often the best way. So we'll show up with a booth most of the time, and we'll talk for 3 days, and we love talking. So, that's not really a problem. Yeah. But that aside, what is tough these days with AI, especially, AI is a great tool. I think all of us use it in some way, shape, or form. It helps a lot in terms of saving time, writing better emails, writing better documents, keeping you, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. But what it has also done is, in a very roundabout way, COVID has forced everyone to stay home. AI, I think, is forcing everyone to go meet in person, because it's hard to tell sometimes what's real anymore. Right? Yeah, and so I say that because in my mind, you have your different channels. So you've got an email outreach channel. You're running an email campaign to get someone to respond, to come and talk to you. Right? It's really awkward sending someone a cold email. It's not fun. But it's like, hey, I promise we're going to have a good conversation. But the email thing is tough. That's super high volume. You're trying to get your messaging right. But most of the time, honestly, I have it now in my email. Like my AI filters out pitches. So I don't even look in that folder, really. I look in there once a month to see if I missed something. More likely to look in my spam folder, to be honest. So that's one thing. LinkedIn's a great avenue as well. And I think, again, people are looking for that genuine connection. So we connect with a lot of people, shoot them a note saying, hey, thought this might be relevant, would love to talk to you. But again, I'm saying AI is kind of driving people to be in person, because I would love to just sit and have a 5-minute conversation and just be like, hey, to Chris's point, what are you working on? Maybe I can help you, right? I had a conversation with somebody yesterday that I thought could be interested in our solution. Talked to them for 10 minutes. And I was like, actually, I don't think you need us. I think you need this person, or I need you. Right? So I'm happy to do that, because there's no benefit to me to I could take your money. But then I'm just asking for it later. Right. So I'm asking for pain later. So the sales process is tough. It takes a special kind of person. The people that are in sales, shout out to them, because you can get kicked in the teeth a lot, and it can get you down.
Yes, it can.
Big time. Right. And so I think Eric Saraiva, our head of sales, would agree with that wholeheartedly. But then you get your other, you get your wins, you get your deals that come through, and all of a sudden your day is amazing. So it really is an up and down. But no, for us, the in-person is great. Also, just referrals are fantastic. People that know somebody, that is a huge avenue for us. We've been very fortunate in that I think every single one of our clients so far has at least referred somebody. Great. And so it sort of grows that way. Because this isn't this super high volume business. That's not what we're after. We're after solid clients that want to do better, that want to use software. And we do become it sounds a little cliche because a lot of people say that, but we do become part of their team, right? Our account managers, they know their clients and they know their facilities sometimes just as well as they do, because they go out and look at them, right? So
no, you are becoming, and this is the term I use because I'm in the broker world. I mean, I left carrier, I'm a broker, and a lot of what you talk about as far as getting kicked in the teeth and you get the highs of the winds. Trust me, I've been doing that for the past. But you made the comment, because one thing if I could step back for a second, in broker world, there's a lot of guys who can entertain you. There's not. I'd say there's fewer people who actually understand your business. And what I try to strive, and I think what you guys, it sounds like you're saying there, and you agree with this, what you want to be is their trusted risk advisor.
Mm-hmm.
You're not just looking to sell them a product, but you're, to your point, be an extension of their risk management or philosophy to help them understand what inherently are their risks to their operations, what can be done to reduce or mitigate that. And I think that's a key skill that people don't. Still, I think to this day, I've had other people on still risk. I think risk management still doesn't get the proper attention or kudos that it should, because a lot of times they see it as insurance, but that's not the case anymore. A lot of things are not coverable, or carriers are looking to restrict coverages, or making push more risk onto the insured. So therefore, this service that you guys are providing, I totally believe that there's a need for it. And to that point, Max, Chris, I mean, maybe you can I'll ask this question if you can't, then maybe we'll go generic. Are there clients that you are in a position to advertise that you're working with right now, who have said you can use them as a reference? I mean, if you can't say it, I understand it, but I'd love to be able to, if you could say that. If you can't use a name, can you maybe at least talk about some of this, remove the name to protect the innocent, the types of firms you're working with these days?
No, I think I have to look, but we generally keep stuff pretty tight. Like we don't, as you see we don't really post any of that on our website. Now, people ask for references, we give them.
Yeah.
I can tell you we work, medical devices, heavy manufacturing, chemical manufacturing, gene sequencing, stuff like that. Yeah. Starting to get a little bit more into softer occupancies, because we just released a cyber module, which focuses entirely on IT application mapping. So exposure to applications, hosting entities, sub-entities, but connecting it all to the value chain of the business. So you're aligning DR with risk management more precisely. But it's we can talk about projects, of course.
Okay. Yeah.
Can't tell you who they are.
Well, sort of tying to that, and this is the third time, we had Mr. Manners come back with a question, which is a little more appropriate. Serious question. How are you seeing this global reordering of supply chains impacting BIAs and BCPs and the speed of their obsolescence? So.
Yeah, great question. I mean, we talked about this the other day with somebody. They asked us a similar question, like, hey, tariffs, good or bad for you guys? Well, if you ask a head of sales, generally not so good because people are worried, right? So when people get worried, they kind of lock up and they're like, let's push this out to 2026. So that's on the sales side. As far as our clients now that are rearranging their value chains, because that does happen, we want your BIAs and BCPs to stay up to date. Mm-hmm. So guess what? If you have 16 binders on a shelf because you have 16 locations, guess what's not happening?
Yeah.
Updates aren't happening, right?
Correct.
So you got to spend a lot of money to do those updates. For us, you can make a change to your dependency mapping, your value chain, what it looks like in a matter of hours. If you're relatively complex. So it's actually, that's exactly the point of why this was built, is to be able to reflect the dynamism that is your business, instead of, hey, we have a BIA from 5 years ago. Even if there aren't these big shocks, chances are that's not accurate anymore, right?
Yeah.
So that's a great question. We're trying to avoid this obsolescence of your BIAs and BCPs as much as possible.
Awesome. Chris, we bolt onto that?
No, I agree with what Max said. It hasn't been a massive reshuffling of anything as of yet. And our supply chain module that we do is adept at handling those changes. So it's kind of like the idea of, bad for sales, but when people are nervous and bad things happen, I hate to say, kind of good for us, but
Well, I mean, roofers make a lot of money when the hail comes down. So there's always an opportunity.
But there's always change. There's so many reasons why things change, and that's why, if nothing ever changed, then this process we wouldn't exist. This process would be super easy.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, you made reference to it. So you guys have obviously started off. You guys are both here in the United States, but it sounds like you've been expanding out to international. How is that process? Obviously you have different customs and regulations and laws, and just social, differences. How is going to Europe, or you mentioned Argentina, South America? How has that been? Has that been a challenge? What's sort of the things you've been sort of having to roadblocks or things over to overcome, or has it just been kind of the same thing? Risk is risk.
I mean, look, a basic challenge is and was, hey, I need to see the euro symbol there instead of the dollar symbol, right? Because when we built this was built for dollars, right? So
Sure.
There are a few countries where you can get away with it, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, like stuff like that.
Yep.
But like euro symbol's distinctly different from a dollar symbol. So
Sure.
There's stuff like that,
Okay.
which is an easy fix. As far as we went to Europe a lot last year, but those are for US based businesses that operate in Europe. So we're going to factories there. We're doing the workshops. Something that, and I alluded to this earlier, what we're working on is a mechanism to just allow those countries, people that work there, when they're contributing to a workshop that we're running. So we're starting to integrate like live translations with the tech that exists today. Your glasses, your platform can do it. So things that are AI powered that allow us to just have a more frictionless experience. So you can go somewhere, talk to someone in English. They're understanding what you're saying in their language, and they can contribute to a BIA, to a BCP in French, in Spanish, and the system will translate it back into English, but it sounds good. It's not like you use Google Translate. You actually use that's a really strong use case for using artificial intelligence. So we've had actually, I don't know, Chris and I have been on a number of trips together, of course. We've always had a great time at these factories. They're always very excited. And they start to feel really important, because when the switch goes off and they move from why are they here? Because that's what happens. Why is risk management here? And why is internal audit with them? And what's going on? And when the switch goes on after usually like 6 hours or so on the first day, and they go, oh, this isn't an audit. I can actually use I'm using the information on MEO, not just to do risk management. Well, that's what they're doing. But we have like what was it, Chris? We were in California a month ago. We're sitting there with a plant manager, and the person from facilities walks in. They look like they were having not the best day, but we start talking about what are all the things you use to support production. And they said, we have a boiler on the building. We have an air scrubber on the roof. Let's talk about that. How long does it take to replace the air scrubber? Oh, it's 18 months. Okay. What happens if it stops working? Oh, production stops.
Correct.
Plant manager turns around to the person and goes, wait, what? Oh, you've had a CapEx request in for like 9 months on this, and we haven't done anything with it because I didn't realize it was that important. Next thing you know, it's a huge exposure. So when something like that goes off, it doesn't matter where you are, people get excited.
No, and Chris and Max, it just goes back to our shared history at the our old firm. What you just said there is that I think is what it all comes down to, as far as prior to, and I would take credit for what we were doing prior to that. Firms, brokerages, you do a BI, but it's high, medium, low. What does that actually tell you? But then having done business interruption claims on the back end, so I used to see them on the back end, and then we were projecting. Then you try to understand, okay, if that critical part goes down and there's a critical supplier, and I think a lot of people are finding out with TSMC makes pretty much everything in the world when it comes to semiconductor chips, and that's why Taiwan.
We've talked to them as well. So the thing is, it's exactly what I always say is like helping clients understand, not just clients but also underwriters. What is this business continuity plan worth? So we've been, I can't say who they are, but we've been chatting with some carriers on this. And what they find interesting about our process is they'll admit and they'll say, look, PD, property damage, we have a handle on that. We can go appraise it. We can touch it. Business interruption, because this touches that. If you get that wrong, can go really, really wrong.
Really, really bad.
And what we can provide through our process is not only, hey, how much business interruption do we think it's going to cause before mitigation? How much quantified mitigation is there? And what is the business continuity plan worth? And I'll tell you, back when I was with the carrier and evaluating BCPs that clients would send, they could even be ISO compliant, which is a good thing. We encourage that. But they lack in the quantification. So what does that mean? An underwriter who's ultimately taking a financial bet on you has no way of knowing if the BCP can be the best document on the planet. If it doesn't have a clear explanation as to why the thing is important, how it is protected, and why it's going to work,
Yep.
They won't be able to give you any credit for that, because even I wouldn't be able to, as a financial guy, I couldn't tell you. I have to go do the analysis, right? So our point there is, with this financial data set that we provide, you can just have a better conversation. We're not saying you're going to get better terms or worse. We're just saying you have the ammunition to have a really strong conversation that's founded in quantified data, right? And that's why, talking with brokers, talking with carriers, that's really interesting to them. And it makes a lot of sense, right? We're going to give you a massively consistent way to do that across your entire book of business, not just for one client at a time.
Yeah, Chris, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I just wanted to add something to the story about the air scrubber, because, it speaks to the larger concept that, when we go, no matter where we go, internationally, domestically, wherever it happens to be, oftentimes, the individuals at the plant, like, they know a lot about what's happening there. They know more than anybody else. They have their concerns, right? And they want to increase resilience. They want to do the right thing. They want to make sure they maintain production. They want to make sure they're profitable. They want all those things. And you just have to get that information from them. So when you're traveling internationally, one of the things you need to sort of focus on is like just difference in cultures, right? Some people are a little bit more quick to open up and to extend trust. Some people aren't. But as Max was alluding to, as soon as they understand that you're there to help them, those barriers are quickly broken down. And that's one of my favorite things about doing those international projects is, as Max alluded to, you see that light bulb go off, and then you see somebody from the plant explaining what we're doing and why it's important to somebody else who just walked in, and you're like, yes, all right, like, we're getting there, we have it. But just to talk about the air scrubber a little more for a second, what Max failed to mention is that the critical piece of equipment that particular organization or that site was concerned about, when we went to the building, the gentleman said, "Oh, this is the big one. This is what keeps me up at night." Right? Yep. Wait until you see it. It's going to blow your mind. We walk in there, we see this enormous piece of equipment. I'm like, wow, yeah, that is a problem. The thing was halfway buried into the ground. They had to put the roof on over top of it. And they're like, this is the thing I worry about when I go to bed at night. And once we've done our analysis, it turns out that the financial exposure associated with that piece of equipment was like $1 million. It was like $1.5 million. They shouldn't have been losing any sleep over this. Meanwhile, air scrubber had hundreds of millions, associated with it. Oftentimes they know, but until you give them that power to tell the story, either they could be just mistaken about what's most important, or you help sort of empower them to make their story more effectively, right? Cool. To the powers that be, by using the dollars associated with it. So it's really
gentlemen, I want to be cognizant of your time. We're coming up here, but for everybody who's watching, I'm having a conversation with the founders of MEO Continuity, Chris Wegman and Max Glodde. If you have any questions for him, please look at the bottom right-hand corner. You'll see my face, and next is add a comment. Please type in a comment, and I'll bring it, as long as you keep it clean like Mr. Manor, I'll bring it to your attention. So
skincare questions.
Exactly. So, gentlemen, let's kind of talk about this. What's next for the next 12 months? What is going to be happening? What's your plan, objectives? What can we see? What do we expect if we bring you on next year?
Oh, man.
What's going to occur in the next 12 months?
I mean, so what's coming out next year in Q1 is we're building a standalone business income value tool. So that allows, and it's not expensive either, but really what it allows clients to do is calculate their business income values year over year, allocate them, and just have a repeatable process that is simple, because BI values aren't that hard, but people still seem to get them wrong. And so we're just working on that. And then, of course, AI is at the forefront of our minds. Just getting through the release of the cyber module now turns our attention to those things. And then we're constantly working on usability and what we call user independence. Because at the end of the day, yes, we have consultants that can help clients whenever they need with this type of stuff. But at the end of the day, what it's really about is, like, some of our super user clients, especially those early adopters, they're running between 10 and 30 BIAs a year by themselves. And just to put that into perspective, back when we were consultants, the objective was a consultant was tasked with doing 4 a year, a consultant. So clients are now just doing it themselves. So they're getting like through all of their locations in their business at like a record speed and have this comparability. So that's awesome. So we're going to keep pushing the platform into a place where someone with no experience can pick it up and run it. That's kind of the idea. Right?
Awesome.
So,
awesome. Chris, anything to add to that from an operations standpoint?
Yeah, well, as the company continues to grow, from a client standpoint, we need to continue adding more people. We're very interested in adding somebody in Europe. So if you know any good risk management folks hanging around Germany, we might.
All right, that's very good. Well, that's a very good point. Leads into, because when I think about going off on your own is one thing, and it's you two. But then when you get to the decision where you're going to start making a paycheck for somebody, one, that's a big level of trust of that person to come to you, to maybe skip that paycheck and come to you. But then that's also the pressure that you got to cover that paycheck 2 weeks or twice a month, whatever. So that's got to be a serious. Talk about your internal deliberations or thought process as far as when does it make sense to bring on somebody versus, we got to push it to a quarter. How does that, what's that conversation like?
Well, some of it's like need. You can't do everything yourself, right? So you got to bring somebody on. Those, all of the people that work for us now, they all believe in the dream of the startup, right? Like you have to some degree. This isn't, yes, it's a job you have to do, but this isn't just a job. Like so you got to believe in us, and they're selling us as much as we're trying to sell them, right? That's just the truth. Hiring those first couple of people when it gets serious, because now you're like, we are directly responsible for you. And so it's a proud moment, but it also is, I always talk about this concept of kicking boulders down a hill, right? Like you've pushed this boulder all the way up and now you're going to kick it. And you say, all right, now we're going. There's momentum to this thing. You just got to keep going. But you also got to be really smart about, I would love to double the team size right now again. I would love that.
Yeah.
But you got to be really strategic with who you hire, when you hire them, what you're hiring them for, and be very clear about what they're going to be doing. And the nature of this space is, especially our ops consultants that help clients, it's chicken egg, because you got to kind of hire somebody and then train them for a little while before they can then be let loose on a client project. But if you're really early, the plane's not off the ground yet, so you don't actually have line of sight into what your project pipeline looks like. We have that now. We know how many workshops we have till the end of the year. We know how many are sort of scheduled for the beginning of next year, so you can start to plan better. But it's a bit of you got to take a little bit of risk there to and bet on those people, and they have to bet on you. I don't know how else to say that.
Like anything else, I guess not necessarily like anything else, but this is sort of an area where not a lot of people have directly relevant experience, because it's a new thing. That's why we created it, right? So to some degree, let's say from an operations standpoint, they have to have an aptitude for, financial analysis, and they have to, be proficient with Excel and, writing and all that stuff, and conducting themselves in a professional manner. But you're hiring a lot for personality at that stage. There's not necessarily an attitude, really, more than anything else. We want somebody who believes in the mission, who wants to work hard, who wants to be a part of something. And, we take it very, very seriously, and we wouldn't make any rash judgments when it comes to hiring. It's sort of different from technology. It's like, can you do this? Yes. Okay, great. Then so you're through that sort of door. We know we're going to have to completely train most people on how to actually, do the operations side of MEO.
Sure.
So you just have to hire people that you want to work with, and you feel like are going to represent, your vision and the company in a positive way.
Great. So, gentlemen, just bumping up on time. So let's talk about, I think Max, so you're going to be talking at Texas RIMS next week. Is that right?
Yeah, so we're attending Texas RIMS. We're not speaking this time. We'll be speaking at the ERM conference in Seattle. That's in November, I believe. And we have DRJ coming up in the fall here in Dallas.
All right.
So we'll be speaking. I'll be speaking there together with a company called Expedient. They focus on cyber and disaster recovery and stuff like that. So you can see how that ties in. So yeah, it'll be a good time. So a couple trips coming up.
Well, Max, when you're coming to Dallas, please give me advance warning. Hopefully
I know there's a lot of people, including Alan and all that. So, and then, a lot of people we know there. So we need to do like a big team dinner, like just a big dinner with everybody.
Drinks or whatever.
Is in order, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Talk about some BIA war stories in the past. Absolutely.
We got more now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
we just put that together. So yeah, I'm excited for that one.
That's awesome. So final questions, guys. And so the past year, again, it's a business, it's an evolution. What's the big thing that maybe occurred in the past 12 months that really you didn't anticipate?
That we didn't anticipate?
Yeah. As far as, starting a firm and growing the firm, and what were some like, boom, you think you got a plan for everything, but something pops up that.
Yeah, I think transitioning our development in-house. How do I say this? Some surprises for sure. And yeah, I'll leave it there. That was probably the biggest challenge. Outside of that, on the ops side, we know how to deliver BIs and BCPs, zero issues right there. And then, and then of course tariffs. But tariffs is like this year it's tariffs, next year will be something else. Like, there's always going to be something, right? So it's like it's that's really it from that's it from my side.
Yeah. Huh? Hence, you got the logo of a black swan behind you, which makes
right.
sense.
Yeah, I know, it's good. But no, I mean, it's and the team the same. I said this last time, and I think I said it the first time. Everything takes longer, costs more. It's just how it is. Because what happens is when you're building product, you get sort of 60% through development, and you go, what would be a great idea? Whenever someone starts a sentence like that, you go, shit. Like here comes a whole other set of features.
Yeah, amen. Chris, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I have two. One of which Max mentioned, which is the challenges associated with just the dev side. Whenever you're creating something, especially if you're going outsourced to insourced. Definitely some surprises, definitely some challenges there, but all good stuff and stuff that we've overcome and continue to do so. The other thing that surprised me a little bit is just when you're dealing with the size of clients that we generally are, sales cycles can be very long, right? So that's something that you have to sort of persevere through, maintain those relationships, and just keep after it and not get discouraged, because when they do hit, and it could happen in a snap, it could be 6 months, it could be 12 months. But if you want to, it's worth it when you create these relationships and make your product very sticky for them. It's a challenge on the front end, but it's very much worth it on the back end. So awesome. Hey, for anybody who's thinking about doing this, just keep your head up through that process.
Well, give us a shout. Happy to chat through that. Love that. I'll talk about that.
Awesome.
Days.
Awesome. Chris, Max, once again, thanks for your time. It's been really great to watch you guys progress and see your success. And thanks for your time to share your stories. And again, love to have you back on next year. We can talk about how this past 12 months is going to go. So
love it. And we'll see you in Dallas.
Yes, please. I would love to see you in Dallas. Chris, hopefully you ever come here. Let me know. So
got it.
All right. So that's again another episode of Risk On, Risk Off. Hopefully you guys found this beneficial. I mean, to have individuals come share their stories about what it is to take and start a firm, I think is instrumental. And then specifically when you're talking about the areas of risk, is a business continuity planning, business impact analysis, since we kind of all learned in the past 5 years, we live in this poly-crisis environment, that things that you didn't plan are going to happen. Then the question is, what do you do to become more resilient? So again, if there's a certain topic or individual you'd like to see on this show, please let me know. Always looking for good topics, individuals. But until next time, guys, bye.